TikTok as Random Virgo Reads. Take it away.
Thank you. How's everyone doing today? As we're wrapping up day one of our final panel. Everyone doing good? Good. I like it. So I'm going to go down the line here and introduce our four panelists. Technically four because this is one company right here. And then they can tell us a little bit about what their company does. So first here we have Fae Crate with Megan and Brittany. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about your guys' business. I'm Brittany.
Give us one thing we have to share. We have to share everything.
I'm Brittany and Megan. We're Fae Crate. We're a book subscription box. We also make special edition books and merch for books, both in romance and also in young adult fantasy and sci-fi. All right, thank you. And next we have Tracy with Firedrake Artistry. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about your business.
No pressure. No pressure. So I'm an artist. My medium is wood and acrylic. I use lasers and saws and all kinds of things to make bookish decor for your bookshelf. So that is basically what I do. I work with other small businesses and artists to help with my creations as well. So that's.
All right, that was good. Thank you. And next up we have Stephanie with Bees and Teas.
Hi. So my name is Stephanie. I am the queen bee of Bees and Teas. We do bookish themed teas, and we do sustainable low impact honey and run a bee co-op that promotes sustainable beekeeping practices.
I love that. And then we have Bella with Buttercup Books. Hi, I'm Bella, and and I make book purses, both wood book purses and also purses upcycled from thrifted old damaged books as well. And then just general book decor and book page art. All right, thank you. So now we're going to get into the questions. The first question I have for you guys is, what is one thing you have learned that you wish you would have known when you first started your shop?
The first thing that came to mind whenever I was reading the question was spreadsheets, and spreadsheets for your spreadsheets. We kept track of things as the best as we could before, but we didn't think, like everything should be somewhere easy to find, because you shouldn't trust our memories anyways. And also having a good support system. It's not something that we didn't have, but it became very necessary. I mean, our first box, when we first had everything in, we had the wrong type of adhesives. None of the boxes were sticking together. The crinkle paper inside, we ran out because we didn't have enough, and I had to send my husband out to go get Easter crinkle paper. So some people have very neat Fae Crate boxes that had neon green crinkle paper, but a support team, and just never underestimate organization.
As a type A person, I agree.
Yes.
All right, Tracy.
I didn't see the email about the question.
That's okay. What is one thing you've learned that you wish you would have known when you first started your shop?
Okay, I will be brief, but it's actually two, and they both pertain to time. And one is professional and one is personal. On a professional level, always expect it to take 5 times as long as you think it's going to take. There are so many times where I've been like, oh yeah, I'll have another sale. I can totally knock this out in a week. And 6 weeks later, I am still at midnight crying, putting things together to make sure that they're all shipped out. So time, just always really know how long it's going to realistically take you to do something, not how long you think it's going to take you to do something. I have a practice a lot of times where I'll say I'm doing 10 signs, I'm going to put 5 together and see how long it takes me, and then I'm going to retime myself and put those 5 together and see how long it takes me, and then realistically from there, okay, so how many of these can I do? So budgeting that time. Another one I'm totally going to steal from Iron Man because it's one of my favorite quotes. So For your personal time, just remember, especially as a small shop, you're going to be doing all of this on your own. So remember what Tony Stark said, that no amount of money ever bought a second of time. So make sure that you prioritize your family, you prioritize your personal life, and things that are important to you that help fuel you so that you're able to put yourself back into your business.
That was very helpful, thank you. All right, Stephanie, what's one thing you wish you would have known?
I think controlling the growth of your company and understanding how quickly and how much you want to scale up and what the scale up of your product looks like. We went I consider it kind of our live in June of 2021. We went viral for the first time in August. We were viral on TikTok, and that was just horrifying. Like, I can't even explain. And we got through it, and then the second time we went viral was that February. And you don't even realize how much that, you have to scale that up and what the scale up of your product looks like and controlling your growth. And that is probably the biggest lesson I took out of our first year was there are so many things you can do, but there's not a lot of things you should do. And so we really now work on this controlled growth methodology where we say 1 year is growth, 1 year is stabilize, 1 year is growth, 1 year is stabilize. We don't chase going viral ever again. It just is not a sustainable methodology. So I think knowing how to scale up your product, knowing what you can scale up, and understanding how you want to grow is probably the best thing that you can plan ahead of time to really be successful.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Bella, what's one thing you wish you would have known?
Separating your personal and business checking accounts as soon as possible. Tax season is rough.
All right, very good answers. And I know this next question is rather all-encompassing, but what is the process like to become a shop? We'll just go down the line.
I think this varies. It depends on what kind of shop you're starting, whether or not you're starting on Etsy or something separately. For us, we did not. I already had a business at the time, which I folded into Fae Crate when we decided to start Fae Crate, but it was a lot of talking and planning ahead. Because we are a duo as well, it was very different for us. So we had to essentially talk about hard things in contracts and what if something happens to one of us and things like that. We had to talk to a lawyer about those contracts and make sure that everything was dotted and crossed correctly. We had to get a business license. We had to learn how to make websites. We had to learn how to, we had to learn everything over again, or at least for me. And then Megan had to learn everything from scratch. So we essentially had to decide where we wanted the business. We had to decide, because we are a subscription model, we had to decide are we doing pre-orders or things like that. So we had a lot of decisions to make before we could even hit go. So it's one of those things where it's there's a lot of pre-planning and thinking about where you want it to be and what you want it to look like, and then a lot of research going into that. So we had to do a lot of research on subscription planning, what type of websites we could have. We ended up using Shopify, and then Shopify has built-in apps that you can use for subscription models and things like that, and then we had to build our subscription model from there. And then build our LLC, which is legal business stuff, and then reach out to different states for sales tax, nexus, and things like that. So for us, it was a lot of business and a lot of panic.
So much upfront. There's definitely a lot that goes into actually starting a business. It's not as easy as, I'm just gonna make this and give it to people.
Oh no, that's what we thought. That's absolutely what we thought it was going to be.
Granted, she was pregnant with her second child. I was graduating college and getting married that year, so don't recommend.
fragile. I have a son who is extremely medically fragile. So it was a different experience for us than it was for a lot of people. We had doctors and therapists and things like that were all pulled out of our house, and it was hard. So one of my friends got me back into reading, and because I used to be a huge reader and I just kind of stopped, and so I really got back into reading. And at the time I had a laser and I was making all of these tier trays. You know the cake stands that people decorate like for seasons with? They're so cute. There's a bee one, I will show you. They're so cute. So I saw them and they come in little sets, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a set like this for my favorite book series. So I just made something that I thought was silly, but I thought looked really cute on my bookshelf. And at first I did look on Etsy. I was like, oh, there's probably Etsy shops, and I wasn't finding anything. So I was like, okay, well that's all right, I'm gonna go ahead and make one. So I made one and I sent it to one of my friends who is very, very active in the book business, the one who got me reading again, and she was like, yeah, I'm gonna share this with my Facebook group, you need to be ready. And I wasn't really ready. I made ACOTAR bookends and Throne of Glass bookends and some other stuff, and those went viral on TikTok, and like you said, that's not what you want to do. They crashed our site, it was like a whole thing. We bit off way more than we can chew. So my husband and I, working around the clock nonstop for months trying to get these bookends out, and this was something that we had not really tested. Like I made them and we were like, oh, this is really pretty, and then after we sold them and got all the pieces and the parts ready, I went to sit down and paint them and went, oh shit, what colors did I use? How did I paint this? Like it was a whole thing. So for me, mine was very chaotic. It was a lot of stuff being thrown at me, a lot of demand I did not expect. I was not expecting to run my own business. I was thinking, oh, I'm just gonna do this for fun. Nobody really don't want these things. And it just kept piling on more and more and more. So one of my biggest things that I've learned with like starting my business is to know when to hire people to help you. An all-star assistant, Jessie, sitting right there. And she has been with me since the very beginning. And she has helped me with clerical stuff and contracts. We have learned a lot about copyright law and about trademarking. We have all of our stuff trademarked that we can. We have everything copywritten that we can. It's expensive, but I can tell you it's worth it to make sure that those things are taken care of. If you are going to grow exponentially, have a good attorney. So yeah, that was just kind of my experience. I have just been a very much learn as I go, definitely bitten off more than I can chew, because I wanted, people want it, no one make them happy, and they need it, and it took a long time for me to realize it's okay if you don't get all of that done. So I could not agree with you more. You don't want to go viral. But if you do, hire good people to work for you and accept help where you need it. Make sure that you're focusing on the things that you really love. So instead of hiring people to assemble or help me with signs or whatever, I have hired people to do social media and all the clerical work and all the finance stuff that I don't want to do. I have a master's degree in accounting. That doesn't mean I want to do it. So I hire other people to do that. So as your business grows, really look at what you want to focus on, what keeps you motivated, what you want to be like the core of your company, and you stay true to that and hire everyone else to do all those other things. All right, thank you, Tracy. Stephanie?
So my journey was a little bit different, because where everybody's talking about being pregnant and having young children, I was on the opposite end of that journey with a child who was turning 17, and we were looking at colleges, and I was facing empty nest, and we had started keeping bees, we loved it, and it kind of grew from more of a hobby into a company. And luckily for me, I married a very good businessman, and so I didn't have to figure out LLCs and accounting and such, because he just did it, and it was great. Highly recommend. Very one of those. So my journey was, like I said, it's a little different, because I was kind of on the other side of that, where I was trying to fill this kind of mothering time, so to speak, that you're so used to dedicating to your child, and now they're like, they don't need you. Well, they do, but they don't want you, so it's a different thing. And so we started with the honey, and then I added the tea in, because I had learned to blend teas when Teavana closed. It was very sad, and I wanted my tea back. And we really did it more to see where it would go. We were very organic about it, about how we grew it. I will say, if you are starting a bookish shop, there are some people that you need. You need an attorney who can file an LLC. You need an accountant, even if it's just a brief conversation with a CPA about how to set things up. You need an accounting system. QuickBooks, self-employed is amazing, really, really great option. You need a bank account for your business because taxes suck. And you need to get licensed. A lot of people forget to get their business license locally and then to get their tax ID numbers, and that can get you in so much trouble if you don't have the ability to pay your taxes, to pay your business fees, to be a licensed person. And then on top of that, we have our health license, which is an entirely separate kind of adventure. So those are the people that you need. And if you want to be in the bookish space, the most important, trademark attorney. Really good trademark attorney. They will be your lifeline to your business, because anytime you have a question, you make a new label, you want to make a new design, you want to make anything, it is straight to them about, is this legal? Will I get in trouble? Am I okay to do this? So a really, really good trademark attorney. Nobody wants to hear the best thing you need as an attorney, but it's the truth of what you need. So I guess that's my answer.
And one little thing to that, copyright. If you're gonna copyright your artwork or anything, if you're doing anything like that, just FYI, definitely get a good copyright attorney, who's also probably gonna be your trademark attorney, but you can batch copyright. So you'll pay the same if you submit 5 at one time as if you submit 1 at one time. So if you have an idea that you're gonna be doing lots of different designs or something like that, try your best to get as many of those together as you can.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely 100% agree with that. Like copywriting, if you don't have a copyrighted, it's not yours. That's the reality.
All right, thank you guys. And Bella, what was the process like for you to become a shop?
So I actually kind of stumbled into it. I went to a book convention with my friend back in 2022, maybe. And I am nothing if not enthusiastic about dressing up. And so I wanted all of my outfits to have a coordinating purse that actually looked like the book of each outfit I was dressing up as. And I could not find that anywhere. So I figured I would just do it myself. And I had so many people coming up to me that weekend asking where I got it, if they could have one. And then I had so many people telling me that I should just make them that I said, give me 3 months and I'll figure it out. So I gave myself a deadline of 3 months and opened up an Etsy shop, did a lot of trial and error with different hardware and everything to make sure that I felt confident that it wouldn't fall apart when I shipped it off to somebody. And then it's just been continual trial and error ever since then. Moving on from my wood book purses to upcycling thrifted books, but going from literally chiseling the insides by hand to upping and getting power tools and using certain types of saws and stuff like that. So a lot of watching YouTube DIY tutorials. Yeah, but my shop is a lot smaller. I have a day job as a paralegal, so all of you guys saying get an attorney. Yeah, so I have a kind of Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 job, so I do all of my crafting after I get home from the office or on the weekends, and so it's a lot smaller, and so I find Etsy and QuickBooks are my best friends for taking care of the general everything else, and then Excel is also my best friend.
All right, thank you. For the next question, I am going to go on a slight informational monologue. How do you get licensed to sell certain merchandise? And for those of you who don't know, it's important to make sure you have an agreement in place with authors or publishers or whoever it is that owns the merchandising rights for that copyrighted intellectual property. If it's public domain, meaning the public is Usually works become public domain after a certain amount of time or under certain circumstances. But a lot of books are obviously copyrighted, so you need to make sure you have an agreement in place to be able to sell those items. Otherwise, you could probably get sued, I assume. So, reiterating the question, how do you get licensed to sell merchandise?
So subscription boxes run a little different because we don't perpetually sell these designs. A lot of times it works differently. So traditional publishing is a little bit different than how you would handle it in the subscription world, at least, to indie authors. So a lot of our publishers that we work with will send them, be like, hey Matt, I really want to do this item for this fandom. Here's the artwork. Can you see if they thumbs up it? And it's as easy as, thumbs up because it's a one-time promotional area. So the traditional publishers are willing to work with it because most of the time traditional publishers, they're getting a lot more out of us getting the book than us just getting a design. But that's a one-time item, so we're not selling that item. For our indie authors, we always reach out individually and we set up contracts based off of how many items are being purchased for the box, how much payment they get for it. Special edition books, we go through the publisher for that. They approve everything. We get a nifty little base camp set up with the authors because we are very big on all of the artwork having author approval. So indie books, we usually work the same way, but we work just directly with the authors instead of through a publisher. But anything that we might do, like we have a special set of, like we've done character plushies before, and that one is something sold by itself and not just a mystery item. We'll set up a contract directly. Either the publisher will give us the agent of the author, or we'll reach out. We did a plushie with Stephanie Garber, and we worked through her agent to come up with a payout system for licensing to do however many plushies we sell. So depending on the item, for a subscription box, you don't always need a full contract, executed contract. You just need the right approvals, and so it's just kind of like playing a game of which one are we supposed to do. But it's very, very important to make sure author is aware, approvals are done, because different people and different authors and agencies handle things very differently. So you don't want to get a scary email being like, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this.
Thank you. Tracy, how do you get licensed to sell certain merchandise? So pretty much all authors, if they do license, just one thing to really understand with authors, not all authors want merch, and that is completely their decision to make. But if they do license, it will either be on their website, there will be a way to contact either them directly, or a way to contact their publishing company, and they'll kind of walk you through the licensing process from there. I always encourage people to make sure that you completely read through your contracts and make sure that you know what you are signing. Just like businesses take advantage of authors, that happens in the opposite direction sometimes too. So you need to make sure that you are also protecting yourself and you're doing something that's profitable for you. So if you're signing a contract that says I owe X amount off of the sale price, but by the time you sell the item, that's not how much your ROI is. You'll be losing money and you'll be paying to sell stuff for this author. So just make sure that you have a clear understanding whether you agree on net or gross sales, however you do that with your business and with your authors, that all of that is very clear to you up front. Also make sure that if you're doing something like, oh, it's 20% off of net sales. As a small business, there's a lot of things that you forget to indicate as part of those sales. So a lot of times we don't like to decide how much we pay ourselves an hour. You would have to pay a worker to make this if you owned a large company, so that is included in part of that. You want to make sure that's in your like what they may omit as part of net sales, as part of their contract. That's why I say read it like really carefully. But those are things: how much your material costs, how much your machine, your wear and tear on your machine costs, how much all of these things. You need to really sit down when you make an item and say, how much does this actually cost me to make? And all of those things are encompassed in that. So make sure that you have a clear understanding of that, and then you look at the contract and say, okay, I owe them this percentage
similar. So for me, I think, first of all, making sure that you understand what trademark means versus what copyright means, and what the legal parameters between those two are, because they're not the same thing. They get used interchangeably a lot, but they're not the same. We have a trademark attorney who reviews it and says, does this fall under trademark or copyright? Does it not fall under trademark and copyright, depending on the graphic that you're using, the words that you're using, the phrases that you're using. All of that goes into kind of developing how much of a trademark or copyright you're into and whether or not what you're doing falls into that. For getting licensed, I find it's very different between like book licensing for copyright versus movie and TV, because we have licensing on both sides. Like book publishers, super easy to contract with, I will say, like much easier. If you want to get more into, like, we just did our Toothless tea with DreamWorks, and that was a much more aggressive, much harder process. Now granted, How to Train Your Dragon is a huge franchise, so obviously it was going to be that. But it did take us twice as long to contract with them as it did with like, for Fourth Wing, for instance. Yeah, it is. And the percentage you're paying out is much higher. So I think, making sure you understand what percentage you're paying out, what your profit margins are, whether or not you can afford that is really an important thing. And you have to make sure it's big enough, that you're gonna sell enough, that you're gonna make enough, that it makes it worth all of the extra effort when you kind of get into that. For the last thing I would say on copywriting is when you have to cancel your copyright contract. Because we did have a very, very large author, and last year we canceled our contract with them because of the actions of the author themselves. That actually turned out to be a much harder process than I expected it to be. I thought it would be my attorney writes a letter, we submit a letter, they accept the letter. They pushed back hard when I said I will no longer be paying you these fees because we are discontinuing all of your products and removing them from our shop. And we got a lot of, it was much more difficult. So if you're gonna get into that relationship, I've learned the hard way, make sure you have a good exit from the relationship, because it sometimes is harder to get out than it was to get in.
Breakups are always hard.
I'm sorry to keep adding things. You're fine. Yeah, we can move on to your copyright and trademark comment, because I've had to have this argument before. It is very important to distinguish between copyright and trademark, and I have had to tell people before, yes, you own the federal trademark for your works. However, the art that I have created, I own the copyright. Therefore, you cannot allow other businesses to make this exact same thing. I own the copyright to that. So that's why those things are so important to make sure that you have them legally together. So I may not be able to use that with their words or their stuff anymore, but I created this artwork and therefore I can use it for other things because that does fall under my copyright.
And we have that with our labels, like our tea labels, because I'm okay as a graphic person, like a graphic designer, but I'm not great. So sometimes I'll have a specific graphic made, and I'll have it made by an artist, and that artist holds that copyright. Like that art, it is their artwork. It's not my artwork. It's not, you know what I mean? It's theirs, and kind of you have to keep that in mind as you're kind of going through this, because you don't own it. The author doesn't own it. The artist owns it, and it's very like.
That's the
weird
side that
thing.
we have as well, because we work with a lot of artists, and so there's a lot of contracting that goes into with our artists as well that we have to take into effect, and we also have to purchase that copyright from the artist a lot of the times, and then there's a lot of the times where we have to make an agreement with the author for where that copyright is going to go once we purchase it. So you have to kind of, there's a lot of fine lines that you have to walk.
And make sure it's visible. Like on
Yeah.
our website, every listing has who owns the copyright, who owns the trademark, if it's licensed under an artist, who that belongs to. You can contract and pay for copyright from an artist. It costs money.
friends that you make with other bookish shops. When I first started reaching out regarding licensing, it was talking to my friends who own bookish clothing shops and asking them like, hey, who was your contact for this author? How long did it take for you to hear back from them? Because especially if an author is like currently going viral or blowing up, it can take like 6 months just to hear back on your initial interest email. And so you gotta, wait, give it time. Don't put stuff out before you hear back. Yeah.
All right.
If you are gonna go after quick side note to that, if you are gonna go for an author that's going viral and is like kind of just blowing up in that moment, I have found that if I have my trademark attorney contact their agency directly versus me contacting them, I get in twice as fast. It's an attorney to an attorney thing, I don't know, it's like a friend club or something, but it helps. If you're trying to like get in on something that's kind of going viral and going big.
All right, thank you. So the next question is, how do you create a website if you don't know how to program? You can talk about your own experience with however you created the website.
You don't have to be a programmer to create a website. We use Spotify. There are a lot of people that are Shopify. That's a long day. That's a long day. We use Shopify, and with that, there are a lot of people that create things for it already. There are a lot of people that you can contract out and hire to create them for you. Or you could be like me and think you can do everything by yourself. And figure it out. Lots of YouTube tutorials. And then have to pay someone to fix it later. But, true story, yeah. There are other ways that you can do a website, like obviously, depending on what kind of business you're starting and what level you're starting, obviously Etsy is something that is super simple to run. But if you're trying to start something outside of that, where it's like you want your own standalone website, you can do that through Shopify, through WooCommerce, through what's the other one? You can literally just Google, where can I start my own business website? There's like a list of them. The two top ones are gonna be WooCommerce and WooCommerce, Shopify, and Square. And you it's one of those things where you need to compare and contrast things like fees and what type of different things that they offer. Shopify had what we wanted, what we needed. That's where we went, and it's surprisingly easy to set up a website. And it's after a little bit of digging, it's pretty easy to customize it, and you can kind of go as far as you want with it without having to worry about handling a lot of the payment processing stuff. So we don't have to worry about anybody getting into our payment processors and stealing emails or anything, because it's Shopify handles it. they take care of that. Whereas WooCommerce, when you go WooCommerce, it's more that is more the programming side of things. So if you're more comfortable in that, that's where you go. If you're less comfortable with that and you want that handled for you, Shopify.
Brought to you by
Not sponsored, by the way.
Spotify, yeah. Exactly.
Okay, Tracy, how did you go about making your website?
So I started on I had to look it up while you were talking. I'm sorry, I was listening, but I had to look it up. I started out with a WordPress site, and I paid someone a lot of money to make a free WordPress site for me, because I had no idea about coding or what I was doing at all. But I knew I wanted to blog, which is something I got too busy for now. I don't need blogs. But anyways, so we started as a WordPress site. It did not contain growth, so we moved over to Shopify. I would highly recommend Shopify as well. As this channel is obviously sponsored by, but I would definitely recommend it. I would highly recommend Shopify. I will say that platforms like Etsy, you see a lot of copyright infringement on. I have lots of friends who have gone through so many attorney fees, so many cease and desist and everything else, because there are bots, there are all kinds of sites that's the #1 place they go to. Even big box stores will go to those sites, see small business ideas, and then mass produce them and put them in their stores. So I personally would recommend that you get your own independent Shopify account and really grow your business organically, things that you can maintain as you go. And you know, it's hard because you see other people that might go viral and you're like, oh my gosh, their shop's so big, how'd they do that? You know, why is my shop not growing? Your shop will grow. Just keep doing what you're passionate about, and it will grow, and it will grow in a maintainable manner for you, hopefully. But Shopify is the best way to, I personally found. You also find a great assistant, Jessie, who also likes to play with your website and make things look different and add fun little things all the time. I think the two of us are constantly like, did you see that I changed the banner? Yes. Did you see that I changed the listing? Yes. So you find someone else who also likes to do websites, and that kind of encourages you to keep challenging yourself and making yours more fun. But like you guys already said, Shopify has so many great templates that you can change and make unique, and add all of your own little flair to them. And yeah, I would definitely recommend Shopify.
All right, Stephanie, how did you create your website?
So we started on Square, just a small website, because we were doing farmers markets when we started, and it was COVID, and so we were doing order ahead and curbside pickup, so people could get, we were doing a lot of honey at the time. And so, you know, we started on Square because it had that capability for us. And then we were also using Etsy. And the very first time, well, I was gonna catch on the Etsy thing, the very first time we went viral, we were sending people to the Etsy site because it was easier than our Square site, not realizing that if you click that link, it showed our product, and then directly below, it showed our competitors that were $1 cheaper. So when we went viral, we gave a lot of sales to our competition, which is a painful realization, but you know, you're growing, you learn these hard things. We left Etsy within days of that, because I was like, that is awful. It's a ridiculous situation to be in. I paid somebody $3,000 to build me a website that was awful, and I was really upset about it. And then my ADD candy attitude came out, and I hyper fixated on it, and I got some YouTube, and I learned Shopify, and I learned liquid programming, and I learned some graphic design for websites, and I spent 6 weeks and I built it myself.
I think that's pretty much the story of how we've accomplished most things. Whenever it's like, I don't know how to do this, and I'm like, I got it, hold on, I'll see you tomorrow, I'm not sleeping.
Hold my beer.
Yeah, no, that's how I get through like everything. I'm like, I can figure it out, it'll be fine. Heaven's like, are you sure? So that's how we did our website. And we hire experts as we want to add things to it, but the base website I just kind of figured out. And honestly, I really do like it. I will say if you're smaller, Square is nice because it's free. Like they have free options versus Shopify, which does have a monthly fee. So if you want to start out on Square and then grow from there, it's a great option for that as well. So don't feel like you have to use Shopify. If you're starting out, you can start out small and grow into it.
Unfortunately, as I said earlier, I am on Etsy currently. This panel is not sponsored by Etsy.
We'll help you get on the shop.
It's already been a plan in mind that I plan on moving over to Shopify within the next 2 years or so. I only just started doing conventions as a vendor last year, so it's been great seeing the growth so far, but it is something that I have had in mind. Currently studying for my paralegal certification has taken a lot more time and effort, so just pretty much crafting myself has taken up all that time, so for now it's Etsy, hopefully something else more.
So you don't want to pedal merch out of your house, you want to be an attorney?
Paralegal, not attorney. I'm happy with the grunt work.
Okay, so our next question, I think Bella and Tracy already kind of answered earlier, so I'm going to direct this more to Megan, Brittany, and Stephanie. How did you get started selling? Why did you want to start selling?
So like I said before, I was in college, and Brittany actually owned a book shop before, and I was a rep for And that's history. No, I'm just kidding. But we were just talking about how we both had always wanted to start a book box before, but it's just too much work for one person. This book box has a lot of pieces for monthly boxes to go out. And at that time, that was the first time we'd ever met in person. So we had those conversations, and we went back home because she was in Alabama and I was in Louisiana. So already, still, like, not even like, okay, we're just talking about it. And she messages, so she calls me like a week later. She's like, how serious were you about like doing a box if there were two of us? And she like, cause I'm having another kid. It was great. It was a great fit because we were able to do, you know, we had our own things going on in life, but we were able to support each other and get through that first hellacious year of everything happening. Like the third time I met her in person was my wedding. So like, yeah. But we we started selling out of my house. Brittany drove in for us to pack our first boxes. That's when we had to get the Easter paper. There were things in various rooms of my house. I had my pets locked into one room so that they couldn't get it. I had a tiny, like the house was built in the 50s. The rooms were very small. It was a nightmare. We very quickly moved to fulfillment, but yeah, that was it.
So what she's saying is Traps a little car with you for 6.5 hours, and that's how you start a business.
Business 101.
Yes.
I remember that.
Mine started with a bee. So we got one beehive. My husband convinced me to get one. I was like, it sounds messy. I don't know about this plan. But we got one and we really loved it. So we ended up with 3 and then 6 and then 12 and then 40 and things happened. And before we knew it, this hobby was a company and we had all of this honey, and so we were selling it at farmers markets. And I was working in corporate HR, and I really kind of needed a break from what I was doing. If anybody thought COVID was hard, think COVID HR, and then that's where I was. So I thought, I want to do something different. I want to do more with the bees. I want to spend more time with the bees. And I had been blending tea, and so my husband said, do it. Like, just leave your job and do it. And I was like, okay, if you say so. So we were doing farmers markets, and then we started doing Renaissance fairs with the tea, and we have our bookish teas. And we stumbled into a Renaissance fair, which was hilarious because I did not know what I was getting myself into. I showed up with like a small amount of product and just got like overrun. It was hilarious. But we made it through, and now we actually do multiple Ren fairs a year, and that's kind of how we started selling. Was we just really wanted to have ways to spend more time doing beekeeping, and we figured this was a pathway to do more bees.
Okay, thank you. This one, I'm not going to go down the line for it. If you want to chime in for it, you can. How do you work on selling in person if you're an introvert?
Fake it.
That's right at the end. If you take half a pill of Xanax, the whole
I hire a Barbie. This is my Barbie. She does the talking. It works really well.
I have one of those too. Having a support person with you is key, especially if you need to take a little bit of a social battery recharge break for like 5 to 10 minutes. Having somebody else who can take over, or also just be your kind of hype person to the side, is very valuable.
And mine makes sure I drink my water and coffee. She's like, I got you a coffee, but you have to drink water first, because she knows my anxiety is like here every time, and I smile and everything's great, but I'm dying inside.
Water and snack reminders are key.
I will say I'm an extroverted introvert, so I can have it, but I burn out. And I just, a funny note, I brought my husband on this trip with us. He took spouse rights to go on this trip, and he's been sitting at the booth with me, and I barely had to say a word. He said, "Oh, would you like to sign up for our raffles? $5. We have dust walker rides over here. Like, let's get to the center." He's great. He's the Barbie. We did do dust walker rides. not been announced yet, and
It's been 2 years.
and it's gonna blow the book world up. So yeah.
Well, unlike that, can you tell us why vaguely and not who?
Yeah.
Like if they gave you a reason why that was mine.
I mean, a lot of times they don't have to give you a reason. So like we just were told that time because yeah. But
I've been told no because at the time I didn't have product liability insurance because I had gone to 3 different places and they were like, you don't make something that needs product liability insurance. That's a waste of $800 every 6 months. And I was like, well, if this person says they won't sign with me if I don't have it. Again, you don't need it. So now I just pay for something that I have been repeatedly told by several different insurance companies I don't need, just to make everybody feel more comfortable.
Could you go back and say I have it now?
No, I moved on to the dollar. I'm flighty.
I read a lot of indie and very small authors, and so I've been told no on a couple of occasions by smaller authors simply because they are smaller, and they don't really want that exposure to that level, or they don't want to feel like they have to drive people to buy things from you because you've contracted with them. There's been several times I was told I don't feel comfortable because I don't want to drive my audience to purchase things. It was something that they were just not into. And I can respect that. I can respect that decision.
There's also a lot of predatory companies out there that will scare authors. Very, very valid. There's a lot of startups that, you'll see a lot of businesses pop up over the years, just like weeds everywhere. And they come in and, it's very exciting in the beginning and stuff. And sometimes authors might get burned by certain experiences. And we've seen a lot of authors be like, I just don't want to work with anybody at all because I don't know, like, something might be made inappropriately, something might not get the right approval from me. I mean, before when we've been in business for 6 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, traditional publishers actually used to tell us with licensing that we didn't need any approval of artwork or anything at all for traditional publishers. They didn't even want us to like talk to them about it or anything. And then there was an incident where somebody else, there was a company that made something really inappropriate for a big author, and it blew up the world.
So
We all know. And immediately all the publishers were shutting down, and it was a big question on getting things done. But we already had a relationship with the publisher, and they were like, we're gonna work this out. We know that y'all have been here, and that's just when new processes begin to start. So don't ruin it for the rest of us.
I will say, so far I've been able to have a little bit of soft no negotiations because for my wood book purses I do essentially design my own covers of the books that these authors publish, and so it is being open to small changes here or there, talking about the different fabrics or different quote choices that I'm using, and so far I haven't had an author just straight up say, no, I hate this. My anxiety makes me feel like it's coming one day, but it is being open to, okay, that's not really what they want out there, so kind of pivoting to a different option and being able to tell them like, okay, well how about let's work on something else.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Joy, do we have to wrap it up or can we do one more?
You knew, you're the last one. If you got one more, let's do it.
Are you guys good? Good to hang? Okay, so the next question, where and how do you store all of your products? I'm sure we all know you want merchandise to be safe and in a space where the probability of damage is low. Is it like in your garage, in a shed out back, or are you keeping it?
We are so proud to answer this one.
Now. Like I said, we've been in business for 6 years. In the beginning, we packed only 2 months worth of stuff in my house. We were like, no, this isn't gonna work. We hired a fulfillment center to actually pack our things, but now we've moved into self-fulfillment. So I'm in Oregon, and we have an actual warehouse space. It's not just us, it's almost like apartments. So in the warehouse space, there's different units, and like we're all a family in there. Everyone's really nice, and they're pet friendly, so I get to pet people's dogs. But all of our stuff is there. We have a warehouse team. Obviously, we didn't used to have that. Our fulfillment center used to send me all of the extra stuff in Louisiana that someone, like a place that's so open and queer friendly and everything that made us feel at home. So if you do ever find places that will respect you as the owner, I will say as a women-led business, it was very intimidating trying to find a warehouse space because, especially in the South, it's a lot of you need help with that, honey, kind of deal. And,
Well, that and like working with our previous fulfillment center, it was a lot of men who talked to us like we just didn't understand. It's gonna take an extra 2 months to do that. You don't understand.
As someone who all of my materials come from Lowe's and Home Depot, I sympathize with this group.
So it was pretty like we had to. It's like a 3-month process to move everything from North Carolina to Portland, just because we were like we are tired of being late and mansplained to about why you're late. And it was worth it. And now we have our own space. We have our own office. We have our own warehouse space, and it's beautiful. It's wonderful, and they do a really good job. I'm not there. I sent them snacks though.
So mine, like I said, I have to deal with very similar experiences. Lowe's and Home Depot. Sweetie, can I help you with that? I know more than you. Let's just stay with me right now. Or one of my favorite flexes is when I park my minivan in the pro parking spaces, and they all give me the looks. I'm like, I don't care. I am a pro. I also have a car here, so. And then they get to just long stare at me while I'm loading 80 sheets of wood into the back of my van. I'm like, guess what? Mine works just the same as yours. So where I store stuff, I have a storage building that I pay for, tax write-off. That's where all of the extra boxes and a couple of my saws and stuff are. We had to climatize our garage. Like I said before, I have 3 kids, 2 have disabilities, so it's full-time care like in our house. So I had to do something that was manageable in our home, that they would also have access to their care. So home shop it is. We gotta manage what we can. So we climatize our garage. That's where my laser and my UV printer are. We do a lot of pieces. I have a lot of storage. IKEA, guys. IKEA. I have a lot of storage places that I keep, extra pieces, extra anything that we think that we might need in case, because that's, if you're a maker, places run out of stuff. Things start trending, and all of a sudden, all the pieces of Baltic birch are gone because everybody bought a laser last week. So you have to really make sure that you're managing your materials. So we always try and make sure we have extras. So our garage, we store a lot of our materials and stuff. I have an extra room. We're fortunate enough that the front room is an office that has turned into my library/office. That's where I box everything up because I can make sure no pets are in there or anything like that. So that's like where we do our final boxing and checks and printing and shipping, all that stuff. And then our island, our kitchen island. The look my husband gives me when he sees all the super glue that is stuck to the granite. And we have a huge island, like it's probably bigger than these tables. And it's just full of piles of different signs. And super glue that's stuck all over the granite. I'll come home from this event and my husband will have chipped it all off by the time I get home. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. So those are really, and my front entryway, like most people have, I call it the luxury of your entryway being a dump zone for your kids, where they drop their shoes and the mail and everything else. Mine is just shipping boxes and book boxes that I've emptied, and now the empty boxes are stacking up there. Or I don't know if any of you guys follow me, but I do a bunch of reels where I put all the shipping things that I'm getting ready to ship out. I stack them all up there and I do content. Yeah, y'all don't even know what's behind that video. It looks so clean because it's just a mountain of garbage behind me. So yeah, everything is stored in my home. It is our garage, my office area, and then our kitchen. All right, how about you?
So because our product is food, it's a little different because we have to have our licensing. And originally we got licensed in our home, and it started out as it was going to be just 1 room, and then it became 2 rooms, and then it became 3 rooms, and then it became both basements, and then it became the basements and the garage. And my son came home at Christmas from college and he said, I feel like if you bring one more cardboard box in this house, it is going to explode. Because there's just so much stuff. But we recently purchased, very, very exciting, we recently purchased a new property. We have 3.5 acres now for the bees. We have 1,000 square feet for bees and teas, plus a garage for storage that we're getting licensed. And so we're kind of finally getting it like out of our hair a little bit, and I'm very, very excited for that. But yeah, storage, man, you don't even understand. Until you've been there, you just can't even imagine what it's like.
Just boxes of
How do you compare cardboard boxes with the storage of your bees?
Like that's a little.
Okay. Like the bees come with their own house, right? So like we have
House storage.
Yeah, we have hive boxes, and like you have those around outside, so it's a little bit easier. But no, like they take up an entire garage for the bees. Yeah.
I would like to say shout out to my roommate who is currently covering my table because everything is out of our house and I have taken over 1/3 of our garage and you cannot park a car inside of it. Anybody who follows my TikTok has seen my chaotic videos of me crafting in the garage, and so I have all of my materials in bookshelves, and then I have storage totes where I put all of my finished products so I don't get sawdust or anything all over them. But otherwise it is my roommate putting up with me taking over our living room during movie nights because I craft while we just hang out in our living room. And so it'll be about once every other week where she's just like, hey, do you think you can clean up a bit? I can't walk through the living room right now. Yeah.
I love it. Can I add one more thing to what you just said? Whenever you do like your process videos and things like that, I know this wasn't a question, but it just got me thinking, something I want other businesses to know. When you start doing processing videos and stuff like that, make sure you know where you want your company to go. If you want to have a YouTube channel someday where you do tutorials, or you have a Patreon where you teach people to do stuff, please go for that. Please do that. However, if you do how-to videos that are very specific, you could inadvertently be teaching people how to do for free. So, watch your content a little bit as a business owner, depending on where you want your business and your stuff to go.
All right, I do think we have to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much. We had a lot of fun.